Excellent. Well, let's get started. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the April version of the DUG4GOV meeting. My name is Liz Hallen, and I am with Dynamics User Group, and extremely excited to welcome all of you here today. For those of you that are not in Austin, Texas, please note that we do have a group of folks in a room in the Microsoft office in Austin today. I think they're hopefully getting ready to hear us very shortly, but wanted to get things started. So thank you so much for being here. It looks like we have a fantastic crowd. Before we get to the meat and the heart of the content today, which I know has been a very hot topic in our community, I wanted to just quickly run through a few informational slides for you about DUG and the fact that you are here at a DUG meetup. If you're not familiar with DUG, that is the short acronym we use for Dynamics User Group. We are one of the newer communities within our space, and we are here to welcome everybody in whatever role you have, whether you are an end user client, a partner, an implementer, consultants. We welcome all of you. So welcome to the community. Dynamics User Group does offer free membership, so if you have not yet signed up, I encourage you to go to dynamicsusergroup.com, sign up for your free membership. These memberships are an individual basis and not at the company level, so one of our big and main cornerstone pillars here at DUG is we're very big believers in free education, content, and networking for everybody in the community to really help you as an individual grow and succeed in your careers. Although we have been around for a long time, we started back in 1995 as an online discussion forum only. And for the past 3 years, we've had a full-time staff on board that has helped us to grow additional programs as part of DUG. One of those programs is what you're participating in today as one of our DUG meetups. And since then, we have grown to almost 40,000 community members, and that is across the globe. So we're super happy that you're all here. And again, our community focuses on all the D365 products of Business Central, customer engagement, finance and operations, as well as Dynamics GP, and not to forget the Power Platform. In addition to the DUG meetups, which you are part of today, we do offer several other programs. You may know us more commonly as the host of the DynamicsCon events. We do host both virtual and live DynamicsCon events, and I'll talk a little bit about that as well. In addition to those, the meetups and the DynamicsCon events, we still have that online discussion forum and would love for you to participate in that for free, as well as a very robust YouTube channel, which has a ton of content and resources available for you to check out and really get educated and learn more about the product and system that you use or implement every day. Our sixth program is our Team Up membership program. This is specifically for our Dynamics Microsoft partners and ISVs. For those that are using the Dynamics products, you'll find that a lot of these partners offer solutions that can help extend and add on to your product to make your jobs even more efficient. We are starting a new program that expands our DUG meetups just a little bit, and we're calling them regional events. I know many of you are not using Business Central, so our event coming up in June in Waco, Texas probably is not super relevant, but perhaps those that are joining us virtually, maybe you are in a space that is close to Arlington, Virginia, or Columbus, Ohio, which we will be hosting 2 additional DUG regional meetups later this year. The regional events are larger in scope than what we are doing here today, which is a couple-hour meeting. The regional events will be full-day events with social hours and multiple sponsors, and they're really meant to have multiple tracks of content. So you'll see our event in July will have Business Central as well as CRM or customer engagement tracks. So we'll have a room of content for each of those. And then for our event in August in Columbus, we'll do finance and operations as well as customer engagement. So would love for all of you to come. These are all free events. We hosted our virtual event back in March, so a little over a month ago. This has been our flagship event. The event in March brought together 6,500 attendees. And just as of last week, we now have all of the session presentations as well as the recordings available for you. So check out DynamicsCon.com for all of those resources in case you missed the event. That's part of what makes our YouTube channel so robust is we record all of those sessions and they're available for you to view year-round all the time. And last but not least, I wanted to just touch quickly on DynamicsCon Live. This is going to be our third event hosted in Scottsdale, Arizona, May 22nd to the 25th, and we are looking forward to hosting around 650 attendees for this event. And for those of you that are joining us for the meetup, I do have a registration coupon code here for you to get $50 off of your registration. And you should note that our prices are increasing to on-site pricing starting on May 1. So if this is something you're interested in, I would highly recommend that you register as soon as possible because the prices will go up next week. All right, and now I think I am turning it over to Matt. Is that correct? To help him so that he can tell you a little bit more about what the DUG4GOV meetup is all about. Matt, you are still on mute. Pesky mute button.
All right, I'll try that again. Matt Beaumont, I lead our Microsoft's Business Applications Customer Success team for state and local government. I'm actually filling in for our Microsoft DUG4GOV lead today, Mary Bremer, who's on site in Austin. So hello, team in Austin. I wish I were there, to be honest, but so I'm in my basement in Boston. So anyway, quickly on DUG4GOV, DUG4GOV is our national group focused on state and local government agencies using Dynamics 365 and Power Platform, where we really share challenges, best practices, accomplishments in an effort to help agencies progress on the platform. So this is using the DUG forums here, but it's really just hyper-focused on state and local government use cases in what we're doing in government. So we meet fourth Tuesday every month. So this is our April meeting, and then mark your calendar. So we have their next one will be May 23rd, where we'll have the State Public Charter School Authority out of Nevada present on Dynamics 365 grant management, which is a use case we see a lot of organizations using on the platform. So pretty excited about that. That should be really good. But today we're going to have Doug. I think Doug Fernie's going to be presenting today on how ChatGPT and OpenAI are changing the contact center experience for both citizens and agents. So everyone's going to be on mute. If you have questions, post them in the chat. We'll do our best to field the questions, and then at the end, if anything we don't get, Doug will at least try to address. But other than that, I think we're good. So Doug, you want to take it away?
Absolutely. Let me share my screen. Okay, can somebody give me a thumbs up? Are you seeing my screen? Okay, perfect. So first of all, thanks for the opportunity to present to everyone today. We had a very lively discussion here in Austin on kind of ChatGPT and how it's changing not only digital contact centers, but also Power Platform, really around citizen or participant engagement. And so one of the things I wanted to do for today's presentation is this is a little bit of update on some current solutions that Microsoft has, plus kind of what's coming from an OpenAI and what we call Copilot, and how it's really going to change how you think about AI within this contact center construct. So contact centers, whenever I hear contact centers, I think, massive, large floors in healthcare or telecom, where I've got thousands of agents taking, interactions from customers. It doesn't have to be that, right? It can be smaller 3-4 person groups or even a single individual who's interacting with a constituent or a participant or whatever we call our customers in kind of the state and local government world. And it's really that interaction between those two parties to help provide information, to resolve an issue, whatever it might be, right? So we see a lot of contact center opportunities within state and local government. Some of the big ones that are out there are obviously WIC, eligibility, anything where you're dealing with a fairly large amount of consumers or participants that need to interact with an agent. And so throughout this conversation, I'll use the term agent only in the context of whoever's answering the other side of that integration and trying to help out the individual, constituent or customer. Okay. A lot of times these aren't necessarily contact center agents. They're just individuals who are tasked with, providing these solutions. But for today, we'll call them agents. So when we think about Microsoft's approach, the digital contact center, we really kind of put these into 5, what I call, patterns of value. It's like, what value do I get when I use a platform for my digital contact center? So the first of which is just being able to serve people on the channel of their choice. Okay, so a lot of times you'll hear us refer to omni-channel. Basically what that means is, all the channels where somebody may interact. I have 2 daughters, 22 and 25. They are device-centric individuals. They don't pick up the phone and actually talk to a human all that often, but they'll text, they'll use a bot, they'll use, Facebook as a channel, or not even really Facebook anymore. They've kind of, we've kind of lost that generation for Facebook, but the other Instagram, other channels that are more in line with their demographic, right? And the concept that we want to hold to is we want to have that preferred channel for whatever makes the participant more comfortable when they're interacting with us. My parents, on the other hand, are, they use phones, they call people. And so again, we want to have those channels across our demographics to serve our constituents in the best way possible, okay? From that omni-channel, we also have to personalize those interactions, right? We want to be able to call people by name. We want to be able to know their history. We want to be able to have insights into their interactions with us. But at the same time, we want to also be able to safeguard those interactions as well. So whether that's through authentication of those individuals through those channels, whether that's biometric voice authentication and fraud prevention. Obviously, when you're on some of these non-voice channels, there's a huge opportunity for potential fraud. So those safeguards are obviously important from a contact center platform. The third pillar is really about agent productivity and efficiency. So if you're thinking about these conversations or these interactions that agents have with their customers, a lot of times these may be very emotional. They may be, tied into someone's personal well-being. So we want those agents to be able to easily find the information they need to be able to resolve the participant's individual issue, but at the same time, regardless of channel, being able to have that empathy and listening skills that we need to help our participants. So in the demo today, I actually spent quite a bit of time on showing kind of that agent productivity and modernization and efficiency within the agent platform. Okay. And then I'll kind of skip the customer acquisition and revenue. I'll kind of talk lastly just about IT infrastructure and simplicity. So digital contact centers can be very complex technically. Phone systems, on-premise, agents scattered all over their, pre-COVID, everyone came into the office. Post-COVID, we now have, agents scattered all over everywhere. And so how do we provide that infrastructure which allows for agents to really work from anywhere, but still have constant, security and platform capabilities, all easily accessible for everyone. Okay. So I kind of mentioned a couple of these, but I want to kind of come back to a central concept of the platform itself and kind of how we think about, from a capability perspective, the 3 different pillars. And so the first of which on the left, I talked about omni-channel. So obviously we have to have a way to interact with our agents, and we do that through a variety of those channels. Voice channels, chat, email, social, SMS, IVR and bots, portals. Those are all ways that our customers can participate in those interactions with an agent. Okay. Within this kind of centralized, what I like to call the digital contact center, or the agent desktop, This is where the agent lives and has all the interaction with that particular customer to be able to provide them knowledge, to be able to handle cases where they might have an issue that needs to be resolved. This is where all my unified routing rules are. How do I route incoming interactions to the right group of people based on who they are, what their needs are, what time of day it is, all those kind of routing rules. All those pieces are all kind of within the center of the contact center within the kind of agent desktop, and you'll see that. And then lastly, but not least, is really the foundation for kind of the insights and the reporting and all kind of the back office parts of a contact center, scripting and smart assist and collaboration and insights and all those things that call center managers are concerned with. Those all kind of act as the foundation. Okay. I'm not going to drill into this in a lot of detail, but I wanted to have it part of the video so you can see the different pillars. Again, kind of one level deep technically from above, the 5 pillars that make up the platform itself. And this will kind of give you an idea of the different set of capabilities that we have across the platform. And really the important part is all of this is built on top of Microsoft technologies. So some pieces of this are Dynamics for our front-end agent. We use Teams for our telephony. We use Azure to drive all of our underlying web services. And so again, a one Microsoft approach to this contact center where we can provide first-party support for all the capabilities that you need within inside of a contact center. Okay. Any questions? And Ernest, I'm kind of looking at you. I know you're monitoring the chat. Any questions we need to address kind of before we?
Does it come with D365 customer service license or a separate platform?
Yeah, good question. So it sounded like the question was a little bit on licensing. And so there's a couple different aspects to the licensing. You've got the customer service license, and then you also have licenses for the different channels. There's a couple of different licenses for chat, digital messaging, and voice. And so depending on what of the channels your agent needs, you need one of those licenses. And then for the most part, that's really it. There could be some other things you tie on if you went with like the gatekeeper, some of the voice authentication stuff, but we can probably do a deeper dive on licensing at some point. Okay. So just as we continue, so in our demo today, I'm just going to spend maybe about 20, 25 minutes, and I kind of want to walk through a typical interaction between and again, I'm using kind of if you've ever seen Microsoft demos before, a lot of times, outside of our state and local government, we use this Contoso, this fictitious Contoso company. And today I'm using Contoso Coffee. The reason why is I'm showing you some technology that's not yet in GCC. I'm going to show you some Copilot capabilities. It is the #1 question I get on an almost daily basis is when will the Copilot features be available in GCC? Unfortunately, I don't have an answer yet. Everything I'm showing today is actually still in preview, and some of it in very early preview states. So before it gets to GCC, it has to get general availability, and then at a point after that, it'll get into GCC. So unfortunately, I don't have a time frame just yet. Hopefully, soon I'll have a better idea of exactly what that looks like. But I'm having to use a commercial environment, so hence the Contoso Coffee. But in reality, in interactions, the content's different, but the mechanisms are roughly the same. So as I kind of talk through this, I'll kind of explain some of that. So this first page that I'm on is what we call our customer self-service portal. Okay, and our portal technology is within Power Pages. And you can completely configure the look and feel of the portal as you see fit, fully responsive, bootstrap support, built on top of Dataverse. So all the data for the portal is coming from Dataverse. And in this scenario, we've just built this Contoso Coffee, page, and I can authenticate into the portal, or I can come in anonymously, and we support role-based security on the portal. But in this case, I'm logged in as Alex, and Alex is having a problem with his coffee maker. It's making weak coffee. Okay. Now, I am not a coffee drinker, but my wife is, and weak coffee is a no-go for her. So we want to fix Alex's problem. So Alex comes to the portal, and he's just going to search for a knowledge base. And unfortunately, we don't have a knowledge article on weak coffee. And so he's not able to help kind of self-serve himself at this point. And again, in this demo, that's on purpose, right? So Alex has a couple of options here, but one of the options is he can decide to chat with an agent to help, resolve his individual challenge. Okay. So this chat is a good example of our omni-channel, right? So what's happening right now is that chat has been configured to actually start off with a virtual assistant. So this is our Power Virtual Agent technology. And so I get Phil, the virtual Contoso assistant, and Phil's going to attempt to help me, and he might be able to answer my questions. He might be able to give me a status of an order that I placed. All those things are kind of built within the bot for those topics. But in this case, I've already looked at the knowledge article. I don't have anything on chat. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I want to talk to a human. Okay. And again, there's probably a button that I could have selected there, and I'm going to actually talk to a human. Okay. At this point, that bot has determined that that's an escalation, right? So I need to escalate that kind of from the virtual world out into the a live agent, right? And so I've switched over onto a page where I'm now kind of within the Dynamics customer service workspace, and this is my agent desktop, okay? And so what popped up in the upper right-hand corner through this kind of notification was that there's an incoming request for Alex, okay? And I'm gonna go ahead and accept that because eventually that will time out. And I'm gonna go ahead and accept that and bring that conversation into the fold. And what happens is there inside of Dynamics, there's a very robust routing engine we call unified routing. And the way routing works is it looks at all the attributes of the incoming interaction and uses those to determine where to route that particular work item. So in this case, a chat, okay? Now, I could, because Alex was logged into the portal, I could look at Alex's lifetime value. I could look at the number of cases Alex had open. I could look at the reason why he was interacting with me. I could make all sorts of determinations. I could also look to see what service queues were available, how much capacity they had, all the modern routing capabilities of a contact center I can use in that routing, okay? Now, one of the things you'll kind of notice is that across the top, I have this new tab that opened up. And so this is my session for Alex Baker, okay? If you've ever worked with contact centers before and you've chatted with them, one of the things that you'll notice is that sometimes once you reply back, it may take 30 seconds, a minute for the agent to reply back. What's happening in a lot of cases is those agents are working maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe even 5 simultaneous chats at the same time, because chats are what we call asynchronous in nature. There's a delay in that back and forth. And so if I were to accept another chat at the same time, I would get another tab up here to the right next to Alex. And these tabs are all contextual. So I have my incoming communication panel with Alex. I have basically my customer service screen that found Alex. I have previous interactions that I've had with Alex. I've had, if Alex had any cases, I kind of have all the information I need as on Alex to be able to start helping, that question, right? And so again, if somebody else chimed in, I would have another tab and I would have all that same information over there, okay? So this is my panel, right? And with digital chat or live chat, we have all these capabilities where we can basically go in and use what we call quick replies. So I can say, hi, my name is Doug. How can I help you? All the things that we kind of want to support from a quick reply standpoint. Those can be system or personal in nature. They can also be based on what service queue I'm working. So for a particular queue, I might use different, quick replies. I can also consult with a manager. So if I wanted to bring a manager into the conversation, I could do that. And I could decide if I wanted that consult to be visible to Alex, the end participant, or not. It can kind of be what we call whisper mode, where the consult can chat with me, but the user doesn't see that, right? And we can do that consult in voice, SMS, chat, any of the channels, we can do that, Okay. I can also transfer that out. I can take notes. I can do all sorts of things kind of within this kind of communication panel. And if I were doing another channel, like say a phone or like a voice channel, my communication panel would look a little bit different. If it was phone, I would have soft phones up here to where I could put that call on hold. I could transfer that call. So this panel kind of changes based on the type of interaction in the channel that I'm working with. Okay. Okay, so let's go back to Alex, and we're going to let Alex say, I am having a problem with weak coffee. Okay. So Alex is going to tell me what's wrong. And over here, you'll notice, and I didn't really mention this before, but a couple of things. So when I accepted that chat conversation, not only can I converse with Alex, but I can also get all of the previous interactions that Alex had with the virtual, Phil, the virtual chatbot. Right. So I can see the selections that he made. I can, see all that history as I'm starting to interact. Okay. Another couple of other things here is you'll notice up in the top of the communication panel, I have this little icon for basically my sentiment index, right? So what is the sentiment of this ongoing conversation, right? So in this case, slightly negative because Alex said he's having a problem, right? So this sentiment changes as the text of that conversation changes. And that works across all of the channels. So whether it's chat or even live voice, it'll do a transcription of that voice to text and keep up with that sentiment. In addition, I have, as a supervisor capability, they can view ongoing interactions and they can see at kind of a glance across all the interactions what the sentiment is across all the current conversations that are taking place. And as a supervisor, they can kind of barge into a conversation if they see it going south, so to speak, to where it gets kind of nasty. Like I think we've all kind of heard examples of conversations that don't go well. And so again, a supervisor can actively monitor those and even barge into those conversations. Okay. Now, here's where AI and Copilot and chat kind of start to come into play is Microsoft has announced a number of different AI capabilities that we're putting under the brand Copilot. And I think Copilot is a great name for that because ChatGPT, OpenAI, we want AI to be your Copilot. We're not going to completely replace the work that you're doing with AI. We're going to augment and enhance and make your work more efficient as a Copilot would, okay? And so how this starts to play out inside of the agent desktop experiences, there's a new little icon down here where I can click on that icon and it's going to bring up Copilot over here in my productivity pane. And when I did that, it took the contents of this chat conversation and it's going out and asking, basically a version of ChatGPT, which is trained against our internal data to be able to find the answer for that particular question. Okay. And so what you'll see here is you'll see the answer that came back is, I'm sorry to hear that you're having trouble with weak coffee. Here are the, individual steps that you can take. Now, the great thing is I can just click send, right? And I could have changed it as well, right? But I can just click send, and now that's being sent over to, Alex, right? And so he gets those individual steps. Okay, and so that is the basis behind Copilot. Is it's listening to the interactions that I have, and this will work against all sorts of other things inside of the ongoing interaction, whether I've created a case that needs follow up on, maybe I have details within the case. It all just depends on kind of what screen I'm in with inside of Dynamics, where that Copilot starts to come up. But the general sense of that is that I want to be able to come in and assist the agent with those particular answers. Okay, so that's kind of the first way of Copilot. And again, for those of you not familiar with the kind of contact center, we also have this concept of like agent scripts, so I can take agents through very predictive, processes. I could have them search additional knowledge articles. I can even pull up like a customer contact card to learn more about, who the company is and where Alex works and who the primary contact is and some of those things, all within kind of this productivity pane. So a lot of those efficiencies that are taking place will surface those over here in the productivity pane. Okay, but at this point, I'm going to end that conversation and I'm going to close that session. I could leave that session open and do some post wrap-up work if I needed to, but I'm going to go ahead and close that. And now I want to kind of come back to this inbox concept because I want to show you another aspect of AI. Okay, so I'm going to not save what I was looking on previously. Okay, so in this scenario, as as my agent Enrico, he is not taking any chats. So what his job is when there's not any chats, he's supposed to go out and work incoming emails. So he switched over to his inbox, and these are all the cases that have been assigned to him for routing rules. And he just so happens he sees another issue for We Coffee. And so he would kind of work these again because they've been assigned to him. So he can open up those. He can see this case. And again, this came in via email, right? In this case, I can go back to Copilot, right? In this case, though, I want to go out and I want to just go ahead and reply to this individual via an email because that's their preferred channel of choice. They send it in via email. I'm going to reply via email. And so here, I now get kind of the write an email portion of Copilot where it's going to help me draft a response, right? And we give you a couple of out-of-the-box suggestions for writing an email. Maybe I need a call to learn more from the customer about their We Coffee. Maybe it's not evident from the email. Maybe I want to request more information via email. Maybe I want to provide some additional kind of product information. But in this case, I kind of know We Coffee, like I've seen this similar. So I'm just going to type in the custom side and say We Coffee. And it's going to go out and start to determine what's the best written response for an email based on that particular situation. Okay. Again, very much like the ask a question, the writing an email is searching for language model OpenAI that is based on our knowledge and the information that we've given it. It's not at this point kind of searching the public GPT model. This is all curated content within inside of Dynamics or even other sources within that individual area. Okay. And so again, as I write that, it's going to give me basically the email context. I can say copy to email. It's going to put it into my email reply. I can change that. And then obviously once I send that, it's going to then put tracking code on that. So if Alex or whoever that customer is in this case writes back, then I can track that back to that original case. Okay. So those are the two places that we just wanted to show kind of how Copilot is starting to come into Dynamics customer service, and specifically in kind of these omni-channel scenarios where I'm being able to take the interactions that I get with my participants, and I'm able to use that to use Copilot to provide me that information and send it back. Okay. Now, I've had lots of customers tell me this is they don't want Copilot to replace the agent, right? The agent still needs to be the authoritative source. The agent still needs to be that empathetic figure that listens and talks to the people who have issues. But if we can streamline that work, that time that it takes to go find those answers, and we can ensure the quality of those answers, it's going to make those experiences for both the agents and the participants, much, much higher satisfaction. The example I like to give is when I call my cable company to tell them that I've lost my cable service, and everybody has been through this example. By the time I call the company, I've rebooted the router probably 3 times, right? I know how it works. I'm in technology. It happens all the time. But every time the agent that I talk to has a script, they run me through Okay, turn off your router for 3 minutes. Go hook a laptop up to your router, which happens to be in my closet, and it's not easy to get to, and I really don't want to take my laptop up there, right? And so what this Copilot does is it allows us to take all the data that we have about somebody, all their prior cases, all the things we know about them, and just make for a much better customer service experience. So we don't have to rely on those scripts where the customer's probably already done those things, right? And so that's where we're going as a company, is making that a much more empathetic experience, a much more positive experience, a much higher, customer sat around those, by using that AI technology in a way that helps everybody, but doesn't necessarily replace individuals. Okay. Any questions on that kind of before I hop into one other ChatGPT type scenario? If we had time, I'll also show a phone voice call into this, but I want to make sure I cover ChatGPT as well. So give me just a second. Ernest, anything in the chat window? Okay. So this is a repeat for the folks who are here locally, but I showed this in the on-site version of the presentation. So another aspect of Microsoft Business Applications is our Power Platform. Okay? Our Power Platform, one of its core capabilities is the ability to do Power Virtual Agents. Okay, Power Virtual Agents is our low-code chatbot, conversational chatbot building technology. Okay, and the way chatbots works is when you interact with a chatbot, you have the ability to give it what we call an utterance or a trigger phrase, where you tell it, basically, you have a question, you have some sort of thing that you're uttering, you have something you need information on. Okay. And so what we can do in this Power Virtual Agent is we can determine if that particular utterance is something of a transactional nature, where we need to take them through, like, for example, you may have used a conversational chatbot to check the status of an order. Right, so you open up the bot, it introduces itself, you say, hi, I have a question about the status of my order. The bot takes that phrase, realizes you're asking about an order. It will then take you through a pre-described route where it asks you for your order ID, or if you don't know your order ID, it might ask you for your email so it can look it up. And eventually it'll make that transactional inquiry about your order, and then kind of pass that back to you as an answer, as a transactional answer. Okay. The other side of chatbots is what we call kind of a knowledge or an authoritative. So it's not necessarily a transaction, but maybe I need an answer for something. And so inside of Power Virtual Agents, we've introduced what we call a boosted conversation. Okay, and a boosted conversation is basically a way that inside of the bots, you can point it at a publicly available site. So in this case, this is the Texas Legislature online site, okay, all publicly available information. And then I can ask it questions based on the content of that site, okay? And so let me go out and open up my little sample database here. So when you have Power Virtual Agents, you get a little sample website that you can use for testing purposes. So let me open that up. Okay, so again, I would put this bot on my website. I could put it on an SMS channel, so you could text in the short code and it'll ask it questions. You can put it on an IVR. You can put it, all sorts of other digital channels. You can put it inside of Teams for internal usage. But basically, I'm going to point it at the statute search, and I'm going to say, how old does a minor, or let's say, let me word it another. What is the minimum age for a minor to work in Texas? Okay, so I can ask it any question, right? And so what comes back is it's going to come back with an answer, and then it's also going to provide me a link to that particular section of the regulation in this case. So in this case, this is all Texas constitutional things, and I can kind of show you what that website looks like. But again, I didn't do anything to train this model other than I pointed it at, the only thing I did, and it took about 3 minutes, was I pointed it at this statutes.capitol.texas.gov. Okay. And I can ask it all sorts of other questions. I can say, what are the requirements to open a liquor store? Hopefully my spelling is correct. Okay. And see, in this case, it's actually looking at, it thinks it found one of the topics like that I had, and so it didn't send it over to ChatGPT. So let me try another one. What was the other one we used, Ernest, in the class?
Cyclist.
Yeah, cyclist. Does a cyclist have to obey traffic laws? Okay. Now, the other thing is this technology is very new, like 3 weeks old new. And so it's getting caught in a little bit of a loop here. I want to start over. Let me try that again. Does a cyclist Okay, so again, it started to answer that question and then posted that information out to me as far as the link. Okay, now the important part about this is if you start to think about ChatGPT, so for those of you who've used ChatGPT, depending on the version of ChatGPT that's out there, so I think the current version is 4, ChatGPT has built this large language model against a learned data set, okay? So in the case of ChatGPT, I think it's as of the end of 2022 for version 4. I think version 3.5 was as of 21. Version 3 was, I think, as of 2019. So that model is already built. So if you go ask it a question about current stock market or sports scores, it's not going to know because it doesn't have that data, okay? Where boosted conversations is a little bit different is it knows that site. So like in the case of the statute site, it will periodically rebuild that model on any changes to that site. So we've told it, don't learn off of this global GPT model, learn specifically off of statutes.capitol.texas.gov and only provide answers back based on that information, okay? The other thing that ChatGPT does is it can actually make stuff up. So I don't know if you've ever seen this, but there's scenarios out there where you ask it something and it doesn't know an answer, so it makes some assumptions, okay? Not something that we want on, boosted conversation is, because this is an authoritative search, we don't want it to make things up. If it doesn't have an answer, it'll ask you to kind of retry that query until it can find something for you, okay?
Are there any features OpenAI can help customers with accessibility?
Yeah, good question. So if you think about accessibility from like a JAWS screen reader, ChatGPT would give you that data back, but it would really be the JAWS screen reader that would then read it back to you. ChatGPT is not going to know anything about like in an application scenario there. We have lots of accessibility inside of, Power Apps and our portals, but nothing kind of comes to mind just yet about how that could help. But that's a good question. And I'll kind of ask some folks around that are in that accessibility group, kind of what their thoughts are on how AI might impact that. But that's a good question. Okay, Ernest, any other questions kind of about the chat side of things? So, and again, ChatGPT is still very new, but one of the things we talked about in the in-person meetup was Microsoft is really putting some guardrails around the use of AI. So if you've seen any of our other presentations around the ethics of AI, we have, a large group that tracks the responsible use of AI. And in fact, in order to publish your boosted conversation, it does have to go through an ethics approval. And so we're trying from an ethics standpoint to put some kind of guardrails around what you can do with AI to make sure it's being done in a responsible way. Okay. And then in addition to that, lots of compliance and other things that kind of go along with sovereign clouds and how you use ChatGPT. And again, as those features become available, we'll put those into GCC and we'll have all the compliance offering for those. One note, if you want to try out some of the Copilot things and you don't have a GCC environment, there's ways that you can stand up a commercial environment for very low cost by basically buying some Office licenses. And then you can add in some of these GPT or Copilot features into those commercial. It would be a separate tenant, but in a lot of scenarios, for R&D purposes or roadmap planning or even fairly limited use cases, having a separate tenant kind of works inside of that scenario. Okay. Okay. We've got about 6 or 7 minutes. I want to show one more thing. Hopefully this will come across right on the audio. I'm going to actually call into this. Hopefully I picked the right number. So if you can hear that, basically it's routing it to the IVR. Typically this would be an incoming message of some sort.
Doug, I don't think we can hear anything.
I didn't understand. Please let me know how I can help you today.
Talk to a live agent.
Choices are order, remote monitoring. Sorry, I didn't understand. Please let me know how I can help you today.
Talk to a live
Choices
agent.
are orders, remote monitor.
Okay, so obviously I'm getting some interesting feedback. So sorry I couldn't get that done. It's kind of hard to while I'm sharing on my screen and calling in on the same number. Basically what that would do is that would have, so when you saw the pop-up of the chat window, that would have popped up the same as that incoming phone call as it did in chat. Now, the interesting thing that I'll end on is you probably couldn't hear that IVR, but basically what happens is in our voice channel, we don't have a separate IVR functionality like a typical telephony system would have an IVR tree. We actually use Power Virtual Agents for that IVR. And so regardless is if you come in via Power Virtual Agent or you come in via voice channel, you're going to get that same kind of IVR experience, but you don't have to support two different technologies. It's all done off of the Power Virtual Agents. Okay, so sorry about the little mix up with the trying to call in. I knew that was a little bit risky. Any questions as we wrap? Anything left in the chat? Is there anybody currently investigating the use of ChatGPT or OpenAI within their agencies? So I've got one. You want to put some details in the chat window? Yeah, so it's very early days. The other thing we kind of talked about locally as we kind of get down to the end, that a lot of people think AI is going to replace their jobs. I actually showed a graph of like, how long it took a car, how many workers it took to build a car in 1940s versus today. And AI, and the reason I like the fact that we use the co-pilot terminology is we're not replacing jobs, we're enhancing jobs. Now, some jobs may change, some jobs may go to a different type of work, but I don't think we're ever getting to the point where we completely replace that human interaction. At least I don't hope so. So yeah, this will be recorded and stored on YouTube, just like all the other all the other things are. Yep. Liz or Matt, anything you guys want to add?
No, appreciate that, Doug. I think that was a really good overview. Sorry, my dog is barking now.
Can't hear it, so
Excellent topic.
yeah, it's definitely you can't not hear about ChatGPT if you're watching the news these days. It's pretty much everywhere. So yeah, so I have a use case using Copilot to deep dive into dashboard data. Yeah, great use case. So Copilot can really look at any authoritative source, whether that's HTML, whether that's data, whether it's documents. So those use cases, and I think those will be some of the first use cases that we see, will be those kind of searching data, searching authoritative, data sources in that kind of natural language text. Yeah, Tom has a good one on people calling in a tax time where you can't give advice, but you can search for instructions like the statutes and then provide those. Yeah, that's a great use case. Yeah, great question. So that came from Dennis. So in the agent desktop experience, we use machine translation. So if I had set it up for that chat with Alex, I could have specified that I use a different language and use machine learning translation to automatically translate between Spanish and English. I think we support like 18 or 19 different languages today for that machine language translation. Not yet on the voice channel, but that probably is coming at some point. We have the technology for it. Any other questions? Those are all good. Okay, great. We can end a couple minutes early, give everybody a few minutes before they move on to their next one. Again, look forward to next month where we have State of Nevada and grants management. So definitely looking forward to that. And everybody have a nice day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.